Good morning, Valenzuela Senior High School learners. I'm Miss Lorena Heral, your Valenzuela FB live streaming teacher for this week. Welcome to our new episode in the Contemporary Philippine Arts from the Regions. We are now in week 2 and we will learn the classification of various art forms in the Philippines. For today's most essential learning competencies, the content standard, we have to demonstrate appreciation of contemporary art forms found in the various regions by understanding the elements and principles. While the performance standards, we have to present a form of integrated contemporary art based on the regions of his or her choice. Examples, choreography, musical instrument, literary and music composition, visual design, and or theatrical performance. While the most essential learning competencies, we have to discuss various art forms found in the Philippines. But before we start, let us have a short game first. It is entitled Guess Who? And what you will do is to simply guess the posted picture and write in the comment box your answer. So I'm only giving you 5 seconds to answer it. So, are you ready, guys? Let's the game begin. So, let's see, who do you think she is? She is the oldest and last surviving traditional tattoo artist from the Kalinga. Her signature tattoo consists of black dots representing herself and her blood-related apprentices and representing a next generation in her art. So, keyboard warriors, you have 5 seconds to answer. Timer starts now. Okay, so time's up. So if you answered Apo ang odd, that is the correct answer. Okay, so let's take a look. Who's the next one? So, who do you think he is? He is a folk musician. He is best known for his rendition of Bayan Ko, which became the anthem of the opposition against the Marcos regime during the 1986 People Power Revolution, and for his song Anak, the best-selling Philippine music record of all time. He is also heavily associated with Pinoy rock. So keyboard warriors, you have 5 seconds to answer. So timer starts now. Okay, so time's up. So if you answered Freddy Aguilar, you got it right. Okay, so let's see who's the last one. So who do you think they are? They are a world-famous dance crew who first gained fame in their national television appearance on America's Got Talent in 2006 before winning the MTV Hip Hop reality series Randy Jackson Presents America's Best Dance Crew in March 2008. So, keyboard warriors, you have 5 seconds to answer. Timer starts now. Okay, so time's up. So if you answered Jabberwockies, you are absolutely right. So, based on the game we have done, we have Apo ang Ad, Freddy Aguilar, and Jabberwockies. They all have unique and natural talents. So, join me and let us explore your God's given talent while learning the various art forms in the Philippines. So based on our previous lesson, art defined as a communication of thoughts and expression of feeling through creativity, skills, imagination, and passion. Art is a highly diverse range of human activities engaged in creating visual, auditory, or performed artifacts. The art or the expression of the human experiences in the Philippines mirror a general public with assorted social impacts and convention. So, what's next? So, what is a contemporary art? So, contemporary art is the art produced from 1970s and at the present period in time. It is made and produced by an artist still living today. Contemporary art includes and develops from postmodern art, which is itself a successor of postmodern art. Contemporary art also reflects the values of our society. So Philippine contemporary art was an offshoot of social realism brought about by martial law, and arts became the expression of people's aspiration for a just, free, and sovereign society. So there are three major forms of art, and these are the following. We have the visual arts, performing arts, and literary arts. So let us discover and classify it one by one. So, do you love to paint? Do you love to draw, sketch, take a photo, and doing computer graphics? So you might be a visual artist enthusiast. So let's find out. We have the first form of classification of the various art form. We have the what we call visual arts. So visual arts are forms that create works that are primarily visual in nature, such as ceramics, drawing, painting, sculpture, printmaking, designs, crafts, photography, video making, and architecture. So visual arts can be categorized into two. So again, the visual arts is also known as a spatial arts. So the next one, the visual arts categorized into two, as I've said, the graphic art and the plastic art. So what is the graphic art? So graphic art is also known as two-dimensional art or 2D art. So the graphic art defined as applied visual arts and associated techniques in involving the application of lines and strokes to a two-dimensional surface. So the examples of the graphic art is painting, we have sketching, drawing, printing, computer graphics, and a photography. So they are an examples of a two graphic art or two-dimensional art. So let's take a look on the painting. So painting is an example of a graphic art. Painting is the practice of applying paint, pigment, color, or other medium to a solid surface. In art, the term painting describes both the act and the result of the action. And the final work is what we call a painting. So in 1987, then President Corazon C. Aquino penned Executive Order Number 118, creating the Presidential Commission on Culture and Arts. 5 years later, in 1992, this presidential directive was enacted into law, Republic Act 7356, creating the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, or we call it as the NCCA. So the NCCA is the prime government agency that safeguards, develops, and promotes Filipino culture through the formulation and implementation of enabling policies and programs as well as the administration of endowment funds for culture in arts. So let's take a look on the national artists in visual arts in the field of painting. We have Fernando Amarsolo. So who is Fernando Amarsolo? Our first ever national artist is known for his paintings of Philippine landscape and his mastery in the use of a chiaroscuro backlighting technique. which became his trademark. It is believed that he has painted rainy, dainy scenery only once. Examples of art of Fernando Amorsolo, we have Maiden in his Realm, Dalagang Bukid, The Mestiza, Planting Rice, and Sunday Morning Going to Town are a few of his famous works. So that is Fernando Amorsolo. Okay, so the national artist, again, for the painting, we have Botong Francisco. So he hailed the greatest muralist of our country. Francisco's popular works include Blood Compact, First Mass at Limasawa, and the Martyrdom of Rizal. One of his greatest works ever, Filipino Struggles Through History, has recently been unveiled for public viewing after 4 years of restoration. The said mural is believed to have been completed by Francisco only months before his passing. So that is Botong Francisco. The next, we have ang Kyukok. Kyukok was a Filipino painter of Chinese descent from Davao. His style is a merge of influences from Cubism, Surrealism, and Expressionism. Many of his work, which were painted during the Marcos regime, would often feature fighting cocks, dogs, and people in chains. Some of his works include a geometric landscape, pieta, and seated figure. So that is ang Kifong. So the next we have Vicente Manansala. He is a Cubist painter and illustrator. Manansala popular works include Madonna of the Slums, Jeepneys, and San Francisco del Monte. He was also an illustrator for the Philippine Herald. A neo-realist, he became known for uniquely depicting together cultures of the barrio and the city in his artworks. So again, he is Vicente Manansala. Okay? Another national artist in visual art, we have Maria Wangad Agay. Apo Wangad, believed to be the last keeper of traditional Kalinga tattoo called batek or batok, rightfully belongs to this category. Batek or batok is an age-old Kalinga tradition. According to researches and the stories of the people in her community, tattooing has been a practice since the time of their ancestors. Her artworks, using distinctive medium and original technique, are representations of a cultural treasure that is uniquely from the Kalinga. So again, he is Maria Wangad Ogay. So the last and oldest mambabato. Okay, another example of a graphic artist is what we call a drawing. So what is a drawing? It is an art or technique of producing images on a surface, usually paper, by means of marks, usually of ink, graphite, chalk, charcoal, or crayon. So who are the national artists under the drawing category? We have the Francisco Hochi. So he is a Filipino comic books illustrator. Koching was a key figure during the golden age of Philippine comics during the 50s and 60s. He is hailed the Dean of Philippine Comics, King of Comics, and a master storyteller in images and print. Majority of his work have been translated into film such as Pedro Penduko, and El Negro. Again, he is Francisco Coching. So, in Angono, Rizal, we have what we call Angono petroglyphs. Folk drawings have been known for thousands of years in the archipelago. The oldest folk drawing is the rock drawings and engravings, which include petroglyphs in Angono, Rizal, which was created during the Neolithic age of the Philippines, corresponding to 6000 BC to 2000 BC. The drawings have been interpreted as religious in nature, with infant drawings made to relieve the sickness of children. Another known petroglyph is in Alab, Bontoc, which is dated to not be later than 1500 BC and represents symbols of fertility such as the kundenda. So again, that is in the Angono Rizal or Angono petroglyphs. Another example of graphic artist is what you call the photography. It is an art application and practice of creating durable images by recording light, either electronically by means of an image sensor or chemically by means of a light-sensitive material such as photographic film. Photography started in the country in the 1840s upon the introduction of the photographic equipment. Okay, who is our Filipino name for the field of photography? We have Eduardo Maspere, was a Filipino-Catalan photographer who made important documentary reports about the lifestyle of native Filipino in the region of the Cordillera in the Philippines. So at the middle of 20th century, he is regarded as the father of the Philippine photography. So again, we have Eduardo Maspere. Okay, so another category of a visual art or spatial art is what we call a plastic art. So plastic arts are art forms which involve physical manipulation of a plastic medium by molding or modeling such as sculpture or ceramics. Materials for use in the plastic arts in the narrower definition include that can be carved or shaped, such as stone or wood, concrete, glass, or metals. So, what are the examples of a plastic art or known as 3D or three-dimensional art? We have sculpture, we have an architecture, we have an interior design, and we have also an art. So that is an example of the plastic art. Okay, so let's take a look on the sculpture. So sculpture is the branch of the visual arts that operates in the three dimensions. It is one of the plastic arts durable sculptural processes originally used in carving and modeling in stone, metal, ceramics, wood, and other materials. But since modernism, there has been an almost complete freedom of materials and processes. Philippine sculpture is the most familiar art forms among Filipinos. Okay, so that is what we called a sculpture. So we have national artists in the field of sculpture. So we have Napoleon Abueva. So he is known as the father of modern Philippine sculpture through Proclamation number 1539. He was proclaimed a national artist for sculpture in 1976 when he was just 46, making him the youngest recipient of the award today. So again, we have Napoleon Abueva. Okay, we have the national artist again in the field of sculpture. We have Guillermo Tolentino, was a Filipino sculptor and professor of the University of the Philippines. He was designated as a national artist of the Philippines for sculpture in 1973, 3 years ago before his death. The Andres Bonifacio Monument, commonly known simply as Bonifacio Monument or Monumento, is a memorial monument in Caloocan, Philippines, which was designed by the national artist Guillermo Tolentino to commemorate Philippine revolutionary Andres Bonifacio, the founder and supremo of the Katipunan. So we have Guillermo Tolentino. Okay, another example of a plastic art is what we call an architecture. Architecture is an artistic expression that reflects how we present ourselves over the world scene and as other expressive mediums. It changes with styles, advancement, and social transformation. The architecture of the Philippines reflects the historical and cultural traditions in the country. So most prominent historic structures in the archipelago are influenced by Austronesian, Chinese, Spanish, and American architectures. So who are the national artists in the field of architecture? So we have Juan Nakpil. Juan Nakpil was a Filipino architect, teacher, and a community leader. In 1973, he was named one of the national artists for architecture. He was regarded as the dean of Filipino architects. He also designed the International Eucharistic Congress altar and improved the Quiapo Church in 1930 by erecting a dome and a second belfry. The church burned down in 1929 prior to Nakpil's redesign of the building. Among Nakpil's work are Rizal Theater, Rizal Shrine in Calamba, Laguna, San Carlos Seminary, Jeronimo de los Reyes Building, Iglesia ni Cristo, Riverside Local, Magsaysay Building, Capitol Theater, Captain Pepe Building. We have also the Philippine Anti-Tuberculosis Society and building. We have also the Rufino Building, Philippine Village Hotel, UP Administration, and University Library. So we have Juan Nakpil. Okay, so we have another example of the plastic art. We have what we call a ceramics. It is the art of pottery categorized into ceramic making, clay, pot making, and folk clay sculpture has long been a part of various cultures in the Philippines, with evidence pointing to a pottery culture dating around 3,500 years ago. So popular potteries in the country include Tapayan, and Palayok. The art of pottery has made attention in recent years as various techniques and designs are continually being crafted by Filipino artisans. So, an example of under ceramics is in the Kalinga pottery. Traditional pot making in certain areas of the Philippines would use clay found near the Sibalom River. Molding the clay required the use of wooden paddles, and the clay had to be kept away from sunlight. Native Filipinos created pottery since 3,500 years ago. They used these ceramic jars to hold the deceased. In Kalinga, ceramic vessels can be used for two situations: daily life use and ceremonial use. Daily life uses include the making of rice from the pots and the transfer of water from nearby water bodies to their homes. So that is in the Kalinga province. So another example of the plastic art is what we call a crop. So craft is a type of art that typically refers to the assembly of handmade goods. So this type of art has been around for centuries, and it is typically involves making items that are not only attractive but useful as well. In many instances, crafts are generally made from raw natural materials. So another example of a craft is what we call a weaving. So weaving is an ancient art from the continue in the Philippines today, which ethnic group having their distinct weaving techniques. The weaving arts are composed of basket weaving, backstrap loom weaving, headgear weaving, fishnet weaving, and other forms of weaving. So again, weaving is another example of a plastic art. Okay. So, how about another example or another form of the various art forms in the Philippines is what we call the literary arts. So do you love reading? Do you love composing poetry, writing stories, journals, and blogging? So you might be a literary artist enthusiast. So let's find out what is a literary art. So literary art is something in the form of writing of stories that have artistic and cultural value that displays the beauty of speech and language to convey certain meanings. Poetry, fiction, essay, and literary art criticism are the focal point art of literature under the non-traditional arts, which are usually based on or influenced by traditional art of folk, literature of the natives, which focuses greatly on works of art from epics, ethnic mythologies, and related stories and traditions. So that is a literary art. So we have two categories of a literary art. We have the prose and a poetry. So let us study first the prose. So what is a prose? In writing, prose refers to any written work that follows a basic grammatical structure. Prose simply means language that follows the natural patterns found in everyday speech. So what are the examples of a prose? We have short stories, we have a novel, and we have an essay. So poetry, another category of a literary art, is what we call a spoken word. It refers to an oral, poetic performance art that is based mainly on the poetic as well as the performer's aesthetic qualities. It is a late 20th century continuation of an ancient oral artistic tradition that focuses on the aesthetics of recitation or wordplay, such as the performer's live intonation and voice inflection. Spoken word is a cultural term that includes any kind of poetry recited aloud, including poetry readings, poetry slams, jazz poetry, and hip-hop music, and can include comedy routines and prose monologues. Unlike written poetry, the poetic text takes its quality less than the visual aesthetic on a page, but depends more on the phonaesthetic or the aesthetic of sounds. So that is the poetry. We have the what we call a calligraphy. So in some cultures, calligraphy on various mediums were utilized to create literary works. It is a visual art related to writing. It is the design and execution of lettering with a broad tip instrument, brush, or other writing instrument. A contemporary calligraphic practice can be defined as the art of giving to form to signs in an expressive, harmonious, and skillful manner. The Philippines has numerous ancient and indigenous scripts, collectively called as Suyat scripts. Various ethno-linguistic groups in the Philippines prior to Spanish colonization in the 60th century up to the independence era in the 21st century have used the scripts with various mediums. By the end of the colonialism, only 4 of the Suyat scripts survive and continue to be used by certain communities in everyday life. So that is what we call a calligraphy. So who are the national artists in the field of literature? We have Nick Joaquin. His pen name is Quijano de Manila. Nicodemus Nick Marquez Joaquin was a Filipino writer and journalist best known for his short stories and novels in the English language. He also wrote using the pen name Quijano de Manila Joaquin was conferred the rank and the title of National Artist of the Philippines for Literature. Very early on, Joaquin was already exploring his literary voice. At age of 17, he published his first English poem about Don Quixote in the literary section of the pre-World War II Tribune, where he worked as a proof leader. So the literary ability of Nick Joaquin allowed him to earn multiple distinctions and honors in the field of Philippine literature. So again, we have Nick Joaquin. Another national artist in the field of literature, we have Edgardo M. Reyes. In The Claws of Brightness, or in the Filipino, Sa Mga Kuko ng Liwanag, is a 1986 Tagalog language novel written by the Filipino author named Edgardo M. Reyes, originally serialized in Liwayway magazine from 1966 to 1967. The title, In the Claws of Brightness, is a word-to-word literal translation of the Tagalog title, which as a phrase effectively makes little sense in English. A more practical English translation would be At the Verge of Dawn. The story became the basis for the award-winning Filipino film Manila in the Claws of Light. The 1975 adaptation of the book entitled Manila in the Claws of Light was directed by award-winning director Lino Broca. So we have Edgardo M. Reyes. Okay, so do you love to dance? Do you love to sing? Or do you love to both singing and dancing? So you might be a performing artist. So what is a performing art? A performing art is an art done live to convey message in a limited time. There may be group of performers or just one to perform on stage or on street that shows on in acting, poetry, music, dance, and painting to convey a campaign. Performance may be scripted, just like theater, or unscripted, spontaneous or planned, with or without participation of audience. So an example of a contemporary performing arts, we have theater, we have a film, we have music, and we have a dance. So they are examples of performing arts. So let's take a look first at a theater art. Theater art is an art that requires actors and actresses to connect to the audience to let them experience a real or imagined event through combination of gesture, speech, song, music, and dance, commonly done on stage and are scripted. These are styles that is commonly seen in Philippine theater, and these are realism, combination of realistic and non-realistic styles, the Brichan style, musical performance, documentary styles, and short plays. So, who are the national artists in the field of theater? We have Daisy Avellana. She was conferred National Artist for Theater in 1999 in recognition of her contribution to Philippine theater and drama. She elevated legitimate theater and dramatic arts to a new level of excellence by staging and performing in breakthrough production of classic Filipino and foreign plays, and by encouraging the establishment of performing groups and the professionalization of Filipino theater. Together with her husband, national artist Lamberto Abellana, and other artists, she co-founded the Barangay Theater Guild in 1939, which paved the way for the popularization of theater and dramatic arts in the country, utilizing radio and television. So again, we have Daisy Avellana in the field of theater. Okay, another example of performing art is a video and art filmmaking. Video art is an art which relies on using video technology as a visual and audio medium. Filmmaking is the process by which a film is made. Filmmaking involves number of complex and discrete stages, including an initial story, idea, or commission through screenwriting, casting, shooting, sound recording, and pre-production. Editing and screening is the finished product before an audience that may result in a film release and an exhibition. So, who is our national artist in the field of video and film making? We have Jose Nepomuceno. So, he was one of the pioneering directors and producers of Philippine cinema. He is also known as the founder of Philippine movies, and he had his own production company, Jose Nepomuceno Productions. He also produced the first Filipino silent film entitled Dalagang Bukid in 1919. The film starred Atang de la Rama, a future national artist of the Philippines. He also directed El Capulo Marchito, a wilted rosebud in 1920. It starred Luisa Acuña, who then became a famous leading lady in Filipino silent film. So we have, again, Jose. So our national artists in the field of music, we have Levi Celerio. So he was a Filipino composer and lyricist who is credited with writing over 4,000 songs. Celerio was recognized as a national artist of the Philippines for music and literature in 1997. He is also known for using leaf as a musical instrument, which led to being recognized as the only man who could play music using a lip by the Guinness Book World of Records. This led to him making guest appearances in television shows recorded outside the Philippines. Among the original Filipino music songs, he composed are Ikaw, Kahit Konting Pagtingin, Saan Ka Man Naroroon. He also wrote the lyrics of the Filipino lullaby, Sa Ugoy ng Duyan. He also composed folk songs including Ako Ay May Singsing, Ang Pipit, Dungawin Mo Hirang, Itik-Itik, Pitong Gatang, and Waray-Waray. Even ang Pasko ay sumapit, officially titled Maligayang Pasko at Masaganang Bagong Taon, is an example of a well-known Christmas song made by Celerio. Okay, again, we have Levi Celerio. Okay, another national artist in the performing arts, we have Ryan Cayabyab, also known as Mr. C. Is a Filipino musician, composer, and conductor. He was the executive and artistic director for several years for the defunct San Miguel production for the performing arts. He was named as National Artist of the Philippines for Music in 2018. His works range from commissioned full-length ballet, theater musicals, choral pieces, a mass set to an accompanied chorus, and orchestral pieces to commercial recordings of popular music, film scores, and television specials. So again, we have Mr. C or Ryan Cayabyab. Okay, another in the field of performing arts, we have contemporary dance. So contemporary dance is a performing art that involves body movement in accord to the musical beat for some use. Is an expression of the thoughts and feelings. An example of a contemporary dance is a disco dancing. It is a dance style characterized by movement of the hip and pelvic. Some will jump together with the raising of arms to the beat of the disco music. Its music is a continuous mix of disco songs operated by the disc jockey, or we call it as the DJ. So that is disco dancing. Okay, so I think you got all the various art forms in the Philippines. So it's quiz time. So let's check how well you remember from our today's lesson about the classification of various art forms in the Philippines. So again, you can answer in our comment box. So let's find out the first quiz. Okay, number one. Miss Saigon is a very popular for this type. It is an art that requires actors and actresses to connect to the audience to let them experience a real or imagined event through combination of gesture, speech, song, music, and dance, commonly done on stage and are scripted. So is it A, dance, B, music, C, performance, or D, theater? So, write down your answer in a comment box. Okay, so what is the answer? The answer is theater. Next, number two. It is a most familiar art forms among Filipinos from carving to molding of gods and heroes for a long time. But at present, through availability of varied materials and medium, technology and technique, it's more flexible and expressive in making their artwork. What is this? Is it A, architecture, B, painting, C, photography, or D, sculpture? So write down your answer in the comment box. Okay, the answer is sculpture. It's letter D. Next, number three. It is an art done live to convey message in a limited time. There may be group of performers or just want to perform on stage or in streets that shows on in an acting, poetry, music, dance, and painting to convey a campaign. What is it? Is it a dance, music, performance, or is it a theater? Okay, time's up. The answer is, it is a performance. Next, number four. Which of the following is an art that is something in the form of writing or stories that have artistic and cultural value that displays the beauty of speech and language to convey a certain meanings? Is it A, literary arts, B, performing arts, C, spatial arts, or is it D, visual arts? Okay, write down your answer in the comment box. Okay, the answer is, it is a literary arts, letter A. Okay, last one. People can't live without it nowadays. It is beyond words. It has the power to speak through people's mind, heart, and soul. It can affect the mood, way of thinking, and even character and disposition of people listening to it. Is it A, dance, B, music, C, performance, or D, theater? So, write down your answer in the comment box. Okay, time's up. The answer is music. There you have it, guys. If you truly want to explore your talent, stop making excuses. If you're still not aware about your talent, discover it from your hobbies. If you already know, polish it. Spend some quality time on it. Your life will thank you if you follow your heart. Dare to be remarkable. Do not doubt your potential. Do not fear failure. Do what you can with what you have. As Ralph Waldo Emerson said brilliantly, every artist was first an amateur. This has been your contemporary art teacher. I am Miss Lorena General, saying stay safe and be healthy and goodbye.